One of the amazing functions, and actually it's an attribute of a data frame in pandas, is that you could actually transpose that data frame. So how we're going to do it? To transpose, it's relatively simple. So if you do that in Excel, that means like the columns are the rows and the rows are the columns. Sometimes in Excel that can be a little bit annoying, but in Python is extremely simple and clean. And that way you just do df dot capital T, and that's it. That's it really. Now, as you can see, the column names are rows, and the columns are actually the indices of the previous of our previous data frame. If we want then to save that transpose data frame, let's call it data frame T, transpose, then shift enter. Now that transposed data frame is going to be saved in this variable dft. Let's say head dft.head. We're going to be interested to see the very first 5 entries. And look at this. We have these column names called 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is pretty uninformative. And actually what we could do is create this time series here on the top as a column names. And then we're going to melt it to make it nice and tidy. How are we going to change the column names? So indeed, if we ask dft.columns and enter, it's going to give us a range index. Indeed, actually, it might be interesting to see the df columns. Remember, df is the data frame that is not being transposed. Just to remind you, let's do this. Let's have a look at the head of df. The column names are unnamed, City of London, Barking, and Dagenham. So now what we're going to do is df.columns and see what is that. Is an index of all the column names. In this case, when we call the dft columns, it's going to give a range index which starts in 0 and stops in 296, which really means we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so if we want to change that from dft, what we're going to do is the following. We're going to say that there are going to be new names, which are the dft.ilog 0 colon. And probably this is the very first time that you came across the ilog function. So I'm going to stop there and show you why I'm doing this. So ilog is a function that is going to allow you to slice your data based on indices. On the contrary, loc will help us to locate any other data based on the name of the column, or name of the indices. It's a little bit different. So ilog is for numbers. So in this case, I'm allowed to put, for example, 0, 2. Let's have a look what it does. 0, 2 of dft is a timestamp 1995. And if we look at dft.head, you're going to realize that actually 0, 2 is indeed this number here. What about if I said df ilog 1, 0? That's going to be the second entry, 0, 1, and then for the 0 column, in this case, this number here. So that's how ilog works. Ilog has an interesting kind of like grammar, because I could actually do some groups there. So for example, from 1 to 4, have the very first, from the second to the fourth inclusive. So I have City of London, 1, Barking, and Barnet. 4 is not inclusive, so the only inclusive is 1. So it's a closed almost like if you are familiarized with this notation, it would be a closed and an open range of numbers. So it's always inclusive the first, but not the last. And likewise here, I could actually go to 2 to 3. And then I could have a slice of my data set. That is with ilog. Let's have a look with log. So if I do exactly the same with log, it's going to give me an error. Why? Because log wants to know the name of the variables. So let's keep all the rows in this case. That's what the column means. But in this case, we're going to give a name of the columns. And one of the columns of DFT actually is going to be, let's say, 0. 0 here. In that case, is giving us the 0 column and all the rows. That is log. Probably in DFT it doesn't work as intuitive as you wish, because the column names of DFT are actually numbers. But if we go to DF only and said, just recap DF, we have DF here, for example, what it would be the city of London. So we just select that, and we said here in .log city of London. In that case, it's giving us all the rows, specifically of city of London. So that's how we're going to slide the data set. And again, if we're interested only in the first row, in this case, we're just going to say we're interested in the first row. It would be 0. And you put 0, then Shift Enter. You're going to have the very first row of DF. Specifically, perhaps we're going to be interested in the DFT ilog. In this case, as you could actually see, is the first row of DFT. So the way that we're going to call the first row of DFT is going to be with ilog 0. If we're interested in the third row, we actually could call it 2. Remember, just keep in mind the Python way to number things. All right, having that in mind, and if we are interested in the first row of DFT ilog, to put it on the top as the column names, we're going to call that as new names, a new function. And I'm just saying new names is going to be equal to dft.ilog, the first row, and give me the rest of the columns. I call new names like that. Now, if you open a new one, a new cell, then this is the trick to change the names of entire data frame. So we're going to say that DFT all names, columns, is equal to new names. Enter. Now, if we said df.head, remember this is the old one, but if I shift enter this one, now the column names are indeed the very first row, and we have almost like repeated that first row. So that's how we change the column names of entire data frame.